I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. It looks like a simple case with strong evidence implicating Luigi Mangione, a young man who seemingly had no connection to the victim or United Healthcare, and now is considered by some a hero for allegedly committing that murder. Here's the story. The arrest of 26-year-old Luigi Mangione for the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson answered one question, but has raised a whole bunch more. Mangione is accused of traveling by bus to New York City to assassinate Thompson, then escaping the city by foot, bike, cab, and bus. He ended up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was arrested eating a hash brown at McDonald's. And when he was taken into custody, police seized many items he had in his possession. Thousands of dollars of cash, a ghost gun and silencer, a fake New Jersey ID, and a series of writings. All of this leading everyone to wonder how and why a young, smart, good-looking, and extremely wealthy Ivy Leaguer ended up locked up facing a potential death sentence. Okay, so when he's arrested, there's actually a rookie police officer who makes the arrest, and it's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And you recall what a big story this was, and there was this huge manhunt. And take a listen to the rookie police officer who made the arrest and how easily he was able to ID the suspect.
So whenever we got on scene there, we were able to pretty much find where he was at in the restaurant. And as soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me and my partner and I recognized him immediately, just from what we saw in the media with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy, but he was very cooperative with us. Didn't really give us too many issues. Once we found out his identity, we took it from there.
Well, you heard the officer, right? Like, all of us knew what he looked like. This was such a huge story, and there were photos and videos, surveillance, all of that, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Does anyone think he didn't do it? Usually that's what these cases are about. Well, he didn't do it, somebody else did it. It couldn't have been him. But does anyone really think that he did not do this? Joining me, New York criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Randy Zellin, and former NYPD officer, retired Nassau County Lieutenant and Commanding Officer Mike Gould. Great to see you both. I just want to refresh everyone's recollection, if you'll let me, by showing you some of the stills from some of the videos that were shown to the public and are part of the evidence in the case. First, the actual shooting, right? The actual shooting is caught on video. You see a backpack, you see the weapon, you kind of see the size of the individual responsible, you see what he's wearing. After the shooting, you see another video of a suspect wearing the same thing, riding a bicycle away from the scene. Then you've got other video preceding it from Starbucks. And yeah, there's a mask on, but you kind of see the backpack, you see what he's wearing. And then he also was at the hostel where he stayed and was flirting with someone and took down the mask for the flirting. And there we see him with two different outfits on, but you see his face pretty clearly. And then, of course, what we just saw, which was when he was arrested at McDonald's. There's a lot of evidence. Mike Gould, how would you describe the evidence in this case?
Well, in one word, it's overwhelming evidence. I mean, very few homicides are we going to see with a literally smoking gun video of the assassination taking place, a contemporaneous timeline of events. This isn't a cold case that we think happened 3 years ago. Every step was almost digitally followed right up to the apprehension, where he has the gun with him. and he has what you're calling a manifesto. I see it as a confession. So I think the evidence itself is overwhelming, unless you go to a really kind of bizarre conspiracy theory that the police did. There's DNA evidence. I mean, it's an abundance of evidence. So I think it's overwhelming.
They also allegedly caught him with the weapon, this so-called ghost gun.
Right, with the weapon. So I mean, this is I've never seen this much evidence, and plenty of people are convicted, but far less evidence. But I think it's now in the hands of the prosecution. It's the prosecutor's case to screw up at this point, I think.
Okay, so we've got circumstantial evidence, we've got some direct evidence, right? Video of the actual murder. We've got the so-called confession as well. Randy Zellin, what is this trial going to look like? I mean, we cover trials here on CourtTV all the time, right? And usually it's like, well, somebody else did it, he has an alibi, or you really can't tell, they can't prove it, this is merely a circumstantial case. You can't use any of those lines.
Well, I think the initial question really has to be, is there going to be a trial? The government, and there are two here, you've got the New York County District Attorney, you've got the Department of Justice, and there is no double jeopardy here because of something called dual sovereignty. You have two sovereigns. So do not be surprised if suddenly the death penalty becomes a bargaining chip for a global plea bargain. But to answer your question and to be fair, how is this case tried? Well, this case may be, short of O.J. Simpson, the greatest example of jury nullification in a generation, because we see the throngs of people who view him as a hero. And it's going to be awfully difficult for a prosecutor to ensure that all 12 of those jurors, that not a single one of them may not be on that jury for that purpose of vindicating this young man as a hero and either convincing the other 11 to acquit, or that one holdout creates a mistrial and then another mistrial. And suddenly, all of a sudden, this case completely goes up in smoke.
Okay, I want to take a listen to that confession, the manifesto. Ken Klippenstein on Substack, an independent journalist, got his hands on this, and it's been confirmed by law enforcement. Here's our producer, Tommy Lopez, reading it.
To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is, these have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed. For example, Rosenthal, Moore, decades ago. The problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty.
Mike Gould, why do you think he did this? Was it just about he wanted all these people to love him, to see him as some sort of a hero, to make his life, noteworthy?
Yeah, sure, Vinny. So our history is vigilantism, anti-establishment vigilantism. So we've always had this. Whatever people are going to view him as Robin Hood. He's a good-looking guy, charismatic. But so was Ted Bundy. And Randy brought up a very good point. He used O.J. Simpson. But I recall a little earlier, John Gotti in New York City, right here in New York City. They called him the Teflon Don. People loved John Gotti. His neighbors loved him. That was the safest street in Queens where John Gotti lived. So there's something, and with O.J. Simpson, Charles Manson, and they all, and John Gotti, they all have, and this kid has one thing in common. They all have very charismatic personalities. So that you can be a sociopath and good looking at the same time. So, yeah, I can't tell you what's going on in his mind. I agree with Randy that the death penalty will be a bargaining chip, and this thing may never go to trial. I think the New York City, the politicians, I've never seen a perp walk like that in my life, where it looked like a scene of a bad movie when they helicoptered him in and the mayor was,
they generally don't do that. Randy, we're out of time, but just a one-word answer from you. Do you think he wants to testify, to talk to the world from the witness stand?
Hell yes.
All right. We'll be speaking about this again. That's 2 words. That's fine, though. Randy Zellin, great to see you. Thanks so much. Mike Gould, always a pleasure. Still to come, will men and women see this case differently?